Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the public meeting for the Interstate 10 Baseline Road Traffic Interchange Study. My name is Gaia Luna, Community Relations Project Manager with the Arizona Department of Transportation. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Participants joining are currently muted. I'll describe the meeting format and how to participate in just a moment. But first, if you are having any technical issues right now, you may need to hang up or log off, then redial or reconnect. Please note this meeting is being recorded. The recording will be posted to the project website. If you would like to turn on closed captioning, click Closed Caption on the bottom of your screen to start viewing closed captioning. Click Live Transcript, then select Show Subtitle. Tonight's format is a short presentation followed by an open question and answer session. After the presentation, we'll provide instructions on how to ask questions or comment by phone or online. If you would like, you can submit written questions at any time during the presentation using the Q&A function, which is located at the bottom of your screen and shown on this slide. Keep in mind that after tonight's meeting, you will have the opportunity to ask further questions or provide additional comments through August 22nd. We'll tell you how to do that at the end of the meeting. ADOT complies with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, and other related authorities in all of its programs and activities. Any person who believes his or her Title VI or ADA rights have been violated may file a complaint by contacting the ADOT Civil Rights Office at 602 712 8946 or by email at civilrightsoffice@azdot.gov within 180 days of the alleged violation. We will have a brief pause to allow individuals to read this information in Spanish while it is described on the Spanish channel. ADOT will make reasonable accommodations to ensure that individuals with disabilities have an equal opportunity to enjoy ADOT's programs and services and activities. If you require an accommodation, please contact Gaia Luna at 480-604-4785 or gluna2 at azdot.gov. Thank you again for joining us for the I-10 Baseline Road Traffic Interchange Study public meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the interchange design alternatives currently being considered to improve traffic flow and safety. We will also give an update on the study schedule and provide an opportunity for questions and feedback, as well as outline the various ways to provide comments during this phase of the study. Now I will hand the presentation off to Mark Gilliland, the project manager from Aztec Engineering.
Thank you, Gael, for the introduction. The I-10 Baseline Road Traffic Interchange Study looked at Baseline Road from 48th Street at the west end and Hardy Drive at the east. The maximum construction limits along Baseline Road are anticipated to be between Calle Los Cerros Drive and Priest Drive. Within these limits, Baseline Road touches 4 jurisdictions: the cities of Phoenix and Tempe, the town of Guadalupe, and ADOT. Baseline Road at Interstate 10 is a major arterial road serving approximately 55,000 vehicles per day and experiences heavy congestion and delays. There are several intersections and numerous driveways along the corridor serving adjacent commercial and residential properties, which contributes to congestion and crashes. The corridor has a higher rate of crashes compared to the regional average. Additionally, the corridor has heavy pedestrian and bicycle traffic with connectivity and safety challenges, including pedestrian facilities that do not meet current standards, intersections without marked crosswalks on all sides, and lack of dedicated bike lanes. Due to these issues, the current infrastructure and interchange design may no longer be adequate to meet the needs of the diverse traveling public. The study is evaluating design alternatives to improve the interchange and address these issues. At the conclusion of the study, ADOT will select a preferred alternative for further action. The study started in early 2023 and is following an established engineering, environmental, and public input process. The study includes the development of an engineering design concept report and environmental document, which evaluates any environmental impacts of the alternatives and mitigation measures. The study team conducted public outreach in 2023 to gather community concerns, priorities, and input. This included a public meeting and public survey conducted in May 2023, as well as a website and extensive public notification. The team also collected data such as field surveys and traffic counts and performed traffic modeling to determine future traffic flows with and without improvements. We are developing and evaluating design alternatives for the interchange improvements, including initial engineering, environmental, right-of-way, and projected costs for the interchange improvements. We worked in close collaboration with our project partners, including MAG, the cities of Tempe and Phoenix, the town of Guadalupe, and the Federal Highway Administration, to develop two possible interchange design alternatives. The second public meeting is being held to present these build design alternatives for your input. We will also be presenting information on the no build or do nothing alternative as a comparison. Following public and local jurisdiction input on the alternatives, the team will select a preferred alternative and prepare a final design concept report and associated environmental documents. The design concept report is developing, evaluating, and comparing preliminary design alternatives, which includes the following items: modifying the existing diamond interchange to a modified diamond interchange, MDI, or converting the existing interchange to a diverging diamond interchange, or DDI. Reducing the number of driveways on Baseline Road to allow for better traffic flow. Reducing the number of signalized intersections in close proximity to the interchange. And improving pedestrian and bicycle operations along Baseline Road by widening and upgrading sidewalks to current ADA standards. This evaluation includes an engineering and environmental analysis. It's important to note that this study will only identify potential right-of-way impacts and access changes. If a build alternative is selected and once ADOT receives environmental approval, final design will begin, and then ADOT will identify specific right-of-way needs and the right-of-way acquisition process can begin. The study team will evaluate the environmental conditions in compliance with the environmental regulations such as National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, and the Clean Air Act. This process will document potential impacts to social, economic, and natural environments, including socioeconomic, air quality, land use, noise, biology, Section 4F, cultural resources, historic properties, and hazardous materials. The team will also document public and agency outreach for the project record. The no-build scenario would not make any improvements to the existing interchange or to Baseline Road. The existing roadways and traffic signals would remain unaltered. This scenario would not improve traffic congestion, safety, or bicycle and pedestrian facilities. The modified diamond interchange alternative would keep the interchange and ramp configurations as they are, while adding some modifications to improve traffic operations. This includes adding a new eastbound right turn lane and extending the existing right turn lane on Baseline Road at I-10, and additional lanes on the exit and entrance ramps. The MDI alternative is depicted in this exhibit. The improvements are shown in a heavier black line. The limits of construction along Baseline Road are from Arizona Grand Parkway to just east of the interchange. This exhibit depicts the additional eastbound right turn lanes and receiving lanes on the eastbound I-10 on-ramp. This is a very heavy traffic flow movement, and the additional lanes allow more turning vehicles to store in the turn lanes and not impede Baseline Road through traffic. The number of through lanes on Baseline Road will remain the same, but removing more turning traffic from the through lanes will increase the number of vehicles served per signal cycle and will improve travel times along the corridor. This alternative also includes the removal of the traffic signal at Windler Drive and revises the access to be right in, right out. This will improve the flow of traffic on Baseline Road by reducing conflict points and extending the available queue area approaching I-10. The second build alternative being considered is a diverging diamond interchange. The DDI is a relatively new type of interchange that provides efficient traffic movements and reduces conflict points between traffic movements to improve safety. A DDI increases traffic flow by temporarily transitioning traffic to the left side of the road, allowing through traffic and left turning traffic to proceed through the interchange simultaneously, eliminating the need for a signalized left turn. The DDI alternative is depicted in this exhibit. Like the MDI, the DDI improvements are shown in a heavier black line. The limits of construction along Baseline Road are from Calle Los Cerros Drive to Priest Drive. Again, the DDI would increase traffic flow by traffic temporarily transitioning to the left side of the road, allowing through traffic and left turning traffic to proceed through the interchange simultaneously, eliminating the need for a signalized left turn. DDIs are particularly effective at locations that have high volumes of left turn traffic on and off of freeway ramps and left turn related safety challenges. This alternative also includes the removal of the traffic signal at Windler and revises Windler access to be right in, right out. This will improve the flow of traffic on Baseline Road by reducing conflict points and extending the available queue area approaching I-10. Next, I'd like to point out the pros and cons of each build alternative. Some of the pros associated with the MDI alternative are as follows. Drivers and pedestrians are already familiar with this configuration. Improvements to pedestrian and bicycle facilities by widening and upgrading sidewalks to current ADA standards. Reduce conflict points and improve safety on Baseline Road. Fewer impacts to existing utilities, right-of-way, and businesses. It is, least expensive and shortest construction duration of the build alternatives being evaluated. Some of the cons associated with the MDI alternative are as follows. There are fewer benefits to traffic operations and safety compared to the DDI alternative. Reduction in access to Enchiladas and Denny's properties from Baseline Road. Some of the pros associated with the DDI alternative are as follows. Improved traffic operations and safety. Reduces conflict points, especially for the high volume left turn movements. Simpler signal operations allows more time to be allocated to Baseline Road through movements, decreasing corridor travel time. Some of the cons associated with the DDI alternative are as follows. There will be more impacts to existing utilities, right-of-way, and businesses than the MDI, including a full take of the parcel on the southeast corner of the interchange. Requires bicyclists and pedestrians to cross into the Baseline Road median. Reduces I-10 incident management by eliminating through movements on the ramps. High right-of-way and construction costs and will take the longest to construct. This graphic shows the anticipated study schedule, moving from left to right. Study began in January 2023. ADOT held a public scoping meeting on May 9th, 2023. The initial design concept report was submitted on May 2nd, 2024. And of course, we're here tonight at the public meeting for design alternatives. The study is anticipated to be completed in December 2024 with design programmed in spring 2025. Funding for construction is not currently programmed. Now, I'd like to turn it back over to Gael.
Thank you, Mark. For more information on the study, you can visit the project website at azdot.gov/I10baseline. We encourage you to visit the website to sign up for the project mailing list. Your input is important, and we appreciate you taking the time to learn more about the study and provide your feedback. ADOT is accepting comments on the alternatives through August 22nd in the following ways. During this meeting, which I will cover in just a moment, you can complete the online comment form by scanning the QR code on your screen or clicking the link in the chat box. You can send an email to projects@azdot.gov. You can call 855-712-8530, and you can visit the project website at azdot.gov/I10baseline. You can submit questions through the online comment form at tinyurl.com/I10baseline comment, or you can mail your comments to ADOT Community Relations, 1655 West Jackson, MD 126F, Phoenix, Arizona 85007. Now we will begin the question and comment portion of the meeting. We will be taking questions and comments in the order that they are received. Due to time constraints and to allow others time to comment, please limit verbal questions to no more than 30 seconds. We may combine similar questions or comments, and we ask that you limit yourself to one question until everyone has had an opportunity to ask their question or make their comment. If you are participating in the online meeting, you can submit a written question or comment using the Q&A function. For our Spanish speakers, when you provide a question or comment in Spanish using the Q&A function, a Spanish-speaking project team member will translate it, and you will hear the response to the question in the Zoom Spanish language channel and Spanish call-in line. The second way to participate, if you are joining the meeting online, is to raise your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. When you raise your hand, the presenter will unmute you and call on you when it is your time to speak so you can be heard. Those who ask a question in Spanish will have it repeated in English by our interpreter and hear the responses interpreted in Spanish. For attendees joining on the phone, please enter *9 to indicate that you would like to speak, and we will receive the hand raised signal. When we are ready for your question or comment, our host will ask you to unmute yourself by pressing *6. At this time, I would like to introduce Tom Baca.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Gael. I'm Tom Baca, a member of the project's outreach team. I'll be helping take your questions and comments this evening. Just as a reminder, so that we get to as many questions as possible, we may be paraphrasing and consolidating similar questions for you so that we can cover more topics and information. So we may not have time to get to all your questions, but we'll provide answers in our meeting summary, and that'll be added to the project website. So we do have a few questions that have come in at this time through the Q&A option here. The first one is, what do you mean by diamond interchange? Hopefully that was answered clearly enough, but I will ask Mark to address that for us, please.
Yeah, we did talk about that a little bit, but it's the most traditional, typical type of interchange, and the interchange is where you have yeah, that's great. I'm glad you could pull that up. If we could go to the MDI. If that's easy enough, yeah. And you can see the north-south is I-10 Maricopa Freeway going over the east-west baseline road. And it has ramps in each of the 4 quadrants, on and off, on eastbound and westbound. And it kind of shaped, it ends up being kind of diamond shaped. And whether you call it a tight diamond or a modified diamond, it's essentially a diamond interchange, which is conventional, traditional, and the ramps generally take the shape of a diamond.
Thank you, Mark. The next question we have is, why not add an eastbound baseline double right turn lane to eastbound I-10 to the DDI alternative?
So the DDI alternative does consider dual rights from eastbound baseline road onto I-10 eastbound. So we did look at 2 lanes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Ravi. The next question is what is the apples to apples, number 1, no build vehicle capacity, number 2, the MDI vehicle capacity, and number 3, the DDI vehicle capacity?
So based on the anticipated traffic volumes in 2050, in the no-build alternative, all intersections in the study area will be oversaturated and operating at a failing level of service. The 2 build alternatives are anticipated to provide improved level of service to all the key movements to the study corridor through 2050. So there is no exact apples to apples number, but like all the key movements will be operating at adequate level of service.
Next question is, what are you doing to accommodate the employees on Wendler that want to access the freeway? How will you prevent drivers from using Calle Los Cerros and the adjacent neighborhoods as a turnaround?
So the employees on Wendler, so in both the built alternatives, so there's a right turn, and at the immediate intersection, U-turn access will be provided. They want to turn left from Wendler. The right turn is always available. It's included in both the design build concepts. The left turn is where, indirect U-turn access need to be provided at nearby intersections.
And does the soon-to-be constructed Western Canal pedestrian bridge over I-10 impact this study, since it may help cyclists and pedestrians at this crossing?
There is no anticipated direct impact of that project on this study.
Thanks, Olivier. If Prop 479 passes, the MAG RST IIP allocates, excuse me, let me rephrase. If Prop 479 passes, the MAG RST IIP allocates 26 million to the I-10 baseline TI. If the MDI is selected, can construction begin as soon as design is approved?
So right now we are still in the DCR study. We don't have a preferred alternative. We're waiting for the public input to incorporate all their comments before making a preferred coming up to a preferred alternative. If a preferred alternative is selected, whether it's a MDI or a DDI, that gives us time to start planning as we're going through the design to come up with the funds. It gives MAG the opportunity about a year or year and a half to reallocate and reprogram and make funds available to whatever the preferred alternative is. Whether it's if it turns out to be a DDI, then they will work to make that funds available.
Yeah, that was the follow-up question for the audience, is that the DDI, if the DDI is selected, how will the difference in funding be provided? Which I believe you just addressed with your last statement. Thank you. Have the businesses and property owners who will be affected by the build alternatives been contacted, and have they provided any feedback?
So we had a previous public meeting that didn't go into the details. Now that we have two alternatives, now that we share them with the public, we are having focused outreach to the businesses along Windler, also on the southeast corner of the I-10 and baseline. And anybody over here that has additional questions, wants any specific questions, they can send us those questions, and we'll be more than happy to answer them one-on-one and provide additional information as needed.
The next question is, as a representative of the Arizona Grand Resort, which owns and operates Enchiladas, we have serious concerns about how our access and parking may change, and how these improvements will affect what we consider the quote front door to our property. How can we gather more information regarding the construction options, specifically more detailed designs?
Thank you, Jake, for the question. I think we probably had a meeting with you previously. We'll be more than happy to have another meeting, one-on-one meeting with you, and share the details of the design. I don't know if you're able to see, but this whole study is also on the project website. You can download the DCR. These PDFs of the alternative, they're provided in full size. You can zoom in and see more detail if needed. And like I said, we'll be more than happy. You can reach out to our communication team if you want a one-on-one meeting to discuss further in detail. Thank you again for your question.
I'll pause for just a moment. I wanted to just remind you, if you're online and want to ask a question or make a comment verbally, just click on the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. You may have to click more if you don't see it, and then you should see the option to do that. If you're on the phone and not connected online, just press *9 to raise your hand. Okay, the next question here is, can you clarify funding again? Is there dedicated funding? I think you kind of addressed that. I just want to make sure that the person here understands that.
So to be in specific, right now, we have funding for final design. That's part of Prop 400. We don't have construction funding program yet. Those are hinged on Prop 479.
Thank you. We have another question here from a property owner. I'm the general manager of Christie's Tempe, and I have concerns about losing parking when I lose the property. My concern is that I won't be able to have enough parking for my occupancy. What would we do if we go below the necessary parking required?
So as you know, we're evaluating two alternatives. Again, maybe, I don't know, Tom, if you're able to put the alternatives PDFs there, but you can see one alternative versus the other, the impacts on the property are different. Depending which one, we're gathering, again, public input to help us with the preferred alternative selection. It depends based on which alternative ends up being the preferred, the impacts differ. As you can see, this is the MDI. I don't see any impacts properly to the Christie's property versus the DDI, if you want to reference that, Tom. We're putting in the sidewalks, they're, taking basically the frontage. We can discuss in details if you have concerns about the DDI and share the details to help answer any questions or concerns that you have more in detail. In person, if you request, again, a meeting through the communication team. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, will businesses with direct access from baseline in this corridor be able to remain viable with either of the build options?
I mean, the main benefit of the project will be to improve traffic flow through baseline, through the corridor. So it will be an improvement, a vast improvement over, say, the no build. I mean, the no build traffic analysis was not really very pretty. There was a lot of waiting to get that far. So it may be that the improvements are really necessary for them to remain viable, to get people in and out.
I've got the Tempe South Mountain Community one.
Okay, I'm sure it will vary depending on the modification choice. How will construction affect the already congested traffic, especially on the hills of the Broadway curve construction that has been going on for a couple of years?
So by the time this project starts construction, the I-10 Broadway would have been already completed construction. So there's no overlap in the construction between those two.
All right, thanks, Olivier. The next question is Cayo Los Cerros is the main way in and out of the Tempe South Mountain community? It appears that both alternatives will impact people and first responders from turning east from Cayo Los Cerros. How will you make it easier for people to enter or leave from or on baseline? That was addressed a little bit earlier. I don't know if you have any additional thoughts to add there in particular, I guess, for first responders. That's a concern there.
Tom, can you move the screen toward Cayo de Cerros further to the left?
I'm sorry.
Can you scroll to the left?
There we go.
Yep. So as you can see, Cayo de Cerros, we're maintaining the current, it's going to still be the same intersection. We're not changing that, whether it's on the DDI or the MDI. So I'm not sure what they're referring to over here. The access on Cayo de Los Cerros will still be maintained the way it is today.
Right. Thank you. The next question is for the MDI, doesn't make any improvements to flow going in onto northbound I-10. I'll go to the MDI here.
So the MDI does improve the flows for I-10 northbound baseline route onto I-10 northbound. First is it does provide more storage for those left turning vehicles by increasing the left turn storage length west of the interchange. And also by removing all the queuing of the right turning vehicles, there's like the flow would be a lot more smoother. So indirectly, it does improve the baseline road to northbound I-10 operations.
And then on the DDI, the second question from this person is, does it eliminate a traffic light at I-10?
No, the DDI does not eliminate the traffic lights at I-10. It just reduces the number of phases, signal phases at each intersection of I-10 ramps. So the through movements would still be signalized. The ramps would be signalized from I-10.
Right, thank you. I saw Lee raised a hand here. I'm going to get this next question and then I'll go to Lee. This written question on the Q&A says, what happens if your right-of-way let me restart that. What happens if your right-of-way causes the Guadalupe business properties to no longer be functional, either from lack of parking or too small of a site?
Yeah, I'll take that, Tom. Specific right-of-way needs will be identified during final design, and the right-of-way acquisition process would then begin. Right-of-way acquisition follow ADOT's right-of-way procedures manual, which can be found on ADOT's webpage. Once the right-of-way plans are reviewed and approved by ADOT, the property owner will be contacted to set up a time for an appraisal of the property. Once a just compensation offer has been approved by ADOT, a written offer to purchase will be presented to the owner, along with the project plans, title report, purchase agreement, and other required documents for the owner to complete a thorough review. The owner can then accept the state's offer or make a counter offer, either requesting a new appraisal or changes to the other terms in the agreement. So that in general is how that process will go. It's a give and take negotiation.
Right, Mark, thank you. Next question, we're going to go to Lee. L-E-I is the spelling of the first name. Go ahead, Lee. You can unmute yourself when you're ready.
It looks like she left the meeting.
Apologize. I may have pushed that in inadvertently. My apologies.
Go ahead with your question.
Apparently, I pushed the button inadvertently. I do apologize.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. All right, back to our written question here. Is there a U-turn on westbound traffic at Arizona Grande and Baseline?
So with both the build alternatives, a U-turn at that location, Arizona Grande and Baseline will be considered for implementation, because that does provide like a potential reliever to the left turning traffic from Wendler. So they will make a U-turn at Arizona Grande signal. So it will be considered.
All right. Thanks, Ravi. Is all traffic still at ground level with the DDI, or are there ramps so one direction rises over another direction of traffic?
Yeah, vertically, the DDI ramps will be similar elevations and grades to as they are right now. It really is more of a horizontal realignment to minimizing conflicts. So there'll be no more structures, no more ramps going over or under, similar vertically to what is out there now.
And just to clarify, these roadways are basically crossing each other, for example, here.
They do at a traffic signal.
Right.
So it's a red light, obviously one way, and a green light the other way, and it just reduces the number of conflicts and pushes a little more traffic through.
Okay, thanks, Mark. How does the westbound I-10 exit 3-lane left turn operate when westbound baseline is flowing? Is it signalized or is it a yield?
So the 3 left turn lanes from the ramp, they are signalized. It's not conflicting with the through movements on baseline road. It is signalized.
All right, thank you, Ravi. The next question is have you considered shutting down access to Arizona Mills from baseline and having all access from Priest? It would reduce accidents.
It was a consideration, but in coordination with our stakeholders, City of Tempe, and the type of business, etc., that wasn't pursued any further. Same thing with input from the stakeholders town of Guadalupe.
We have another question with similar concerns about potential loss of local businesses in the area. So which of the plans do you believe has the least amount of business impact in the area?
Yeah, of the two build alternatives, the modified diamond has the smaller footprint, the smaller impact to everything. It's just more similar to what's there. So less right of way, less utility relocations, less acquisition, considerably less. With the DDI has significantly more.
This question is very simple. Why did the reroute of Wendler change?
So as a DCR phase, we do go through furthermore additional traffic analysis and gathering and alternative evaluation based on the traffic counts that we got, as far as how many of them are making a left turn into Windler heading eastbound, and how many of them coming out of Windler making a left turn heading eastbound. Also, the numbers did not warrant having a signalized intersection over there. Those numbers can be accommodated by going further east and doing a U-turn, or going further east and making a U-turn there.
This next question makes reference to the 2018 study. The spine showed a possible frontage road from Wendler through the parking lot at the former Fry's Electronics parking lot. Can zoning work there? Otherwise, Wendler is useful. It says useful to a lot of neighbors, workers, employees, and patrons. I wonder if they maybe meant not useful. I don't know for sure.
So the answer is kind of similar to the previous question. The number of vehicles per hour that are using this intersection for at peak time is very small. That does not warrant a full traffic signal there. Rerouting through other properties does not warrant putting other businesses or property acquiring them out of business. So that was the analysis from a validation. Could not be justified rerouting Windler at the moment.
The next question is would you please explain how these plans accommodate pedestrians and bicycles, and will bus pullouts be maintained or provided?
Who wants to take it? You're going to take it, Trey?
I got it. Yeah, as we talked about during the presentation, the sidewalks out there do not meet current ADA standards. So if they get touched as part of this project, we will be bringing them up to ADA standards. Both city and town have asked for a widened sidewalk, multi-use path. we're looking at going from a minimum of 5 feet to 8 feet if that segment is impacted. The DDI I mentioned, and you can kind of see in this graphic, it does require pedestrians to cross at the interchange into the median. And then, yeah, there you go. That's exactly it. So that's a little unique, a little different, but the improvements are ADA criteria and widened.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot the second question. Yes, it is our intention and as part of the DCR, which is online, a lot more detailed information, but we will be maintaining transit access and bus stops.
This question is, do both the MDI and DDI show dedicated bike and ped facilities along baseline? And I think we've addressed that question. So that was actually just addressed their second question as well about the access for transit and bus.
Yeah, I probably need to clean that up. We're not looking at dedicated bike lanes. There'll be a combined and widened pathway that meets city and town requirements for both bike and ped.
Thanks for the clarification. If the westbound 3-lane exit is signalized, isn't this the same as the proposed diamond?
So in both the build conditions, the ramps are signalized, but the DDI, there's fewer phases at the intersections. Thereby it gains a little more efficiency. So there is some difference between the signal operations between the two. It's not identical.
It's important to look at the potential business and employee capacity on Wendler. Counts are low now, maybe not in 5 to 10 years. And I know that there was traffic analysis and forecasts there. Can you maybe elaborate on that?
Yes, so we did consider the potential growth along the entire corridor and also the adjacent roadways. The traffic forecasting for this project did look at 2050 conditions, 2050 there. And we did look at the regional model, which takes into account the potential growth and all the businesses nearby. And even with the growth, the potential growth in that area, the left turning traffic from Wendler Road onto Baseline Road can still be served via an indirect U-turn at Arizona Grand Parkway. So thereby it's removed from both the built alternatives.
Robbie.
The next thing here is actually a comment. So Wendler access is very important to me. I am used to heading east on Baseline from 48th Street and turning left onto Wendler. A passage through the former Fry's Electronics parking lot would really help. So that was the comment there. And the next question is the reason for the traffic counts being down on Wendler because the Fry's building is not being occupied?
So that's not the case. I mean, the Wendler Price has its own access just west of Wendler Road, and it did not have much of an impact on the traffic counts at Wendler Drive.
Those are all the questions that have been submitted so far. Again, if you have a question that you'd like to ask verbally, just raise your hand by clicking the raise hand icon. Or if you're on the phone, hitting *9. I have another question that just came in now. How much more efficient is that measure as cars per minute, or is that measured as cars per minute? So how much more efficient is the DDI versus the MDI?
So from a traffic operations perspective, and again, from a purely traffic operations perspective, the DDI does provide a little more capacity than the MDI in this case. But again, like I said, the key movements at this interchange, which is the eastbound right turn onto I-10 and also the eastbound left turn onto I-10 North, those are adequately serviced by both the alternatives. That said, the DDI does provide a little more capacity than the MDI.
Another question just came in. The DDI appears to only have 2 left turn lanes exiting I-10 to go east on baseline. Isn't there 3 left turn lanes currently? That's a heavy movement to the mall. Will 2 lanes handle the volume?
Yes, again, with the efficiencies gained at the signal phasing with the DDI, we believe a 2-lane left turn is adequate to service the volume coming from I-10 towards the mall.
And the next question is there an animation of how these changes would look to get a better visual?
At the current stage, we don't have a visual. We will have a visual of the preferred alternative to be presented.
All right, we don't have any other questions again here. For anyone who might be on the Spanish language phone line, just state your question. Our interpreter who is listening there will relay your question to us and our panel. We are scheduled to be on till 7 p.m. So again, if you have any other questions between now and the next few minutes, we'd be happy to answer those. Okay, we have another question here. We fought to not allow Burger King and Fry's fuel until ADOT fixed the interchanges. Now you want me to go west on baseline to 48th, and then north to Southern, east to Priest, and back to baseline for patronizing these businesses? That's the question.
So the question is not really clear. Not sure if we follow exactly. Maybe it's a clarification, but I mean, there's an opportunity for a U-turn on baseline, like we mentioned. If this is referring to eliminating Windler as a signal, as a traffic signal. Again, not sure what the description or from the question what is being asked over here.
I think so. I think that's the question of access there with the elimination of the turn, I would assume. If that person would like to raise your hand, we could allow you to explain yourself. Meanwhile, we have another question here. When this is finished, do the engineers designing these plans assume responsibility if problems arise after the fact?
So as we mentioned, there's a lot of design and engineering and alternative evaluation that goes into the selection process. Everything is follow standards and design guidelines, federal design guidelines, state guidelines. So everything should be within everything. When everything is within these design guidelines, then everything should be functioning. Of course, you know, engineers are responsible for their designs.
Thanks. I've got person here, Greg, with your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself and then ask your question, please.
So it sounds like if you're eastbound, in order to get to Burger King and the Pancake House, you have to make a U-turn somewhere. Isn't that considered to be a more dangerous circumstance than it currently is?
Well, these U-turns would be made at signalized intersections with a dedicated phase, like a left turn phase. The U-turns will happen on a protected phase. So whether you make a left turn in the current condition at a signalized phase or a U-turn at another intersection, the risk of crash is very similar. It does add a few extra feet of travel, like a few hundred feet of extra feet of travel for those left turning vehicles, whether to the Burger King or Vendor Drive eastbound.
So the U-turn would occur to the west of the interchange. Is that correct? I'm not sure where the U-turn will be acceptable for the Pancake House and or a Burger King.
Yeah, so if you are traveling eastbound on baseline, the U-turn will occur after the interchange with I-10. So you have to go past I-10 and U-turn and get back into Vendor Drive or baseline drive. So if you're going eastbound, it's a little further away, the first U-turn.
Is there a difference just as between MDI and DDI?
Yeah, you probably don't have a study on that quantity. I mean, gosh, to me, that seems to be about 50% of their business. They have to make a U-turn, to me, which adds more danger.
Let me answer.
All right.
So
Thank
just again, as was mentioned, there's a dedicated. So when you're doing that U-turn, it's as if you are making a left turn into Windler from safety perspective. As Ravi prescribed, it's going to be phased at the traffic signals, which would allow the person to make a left turn when it's allowed by the arrow to make a left turn lane. Looking at this thing, the first intersection that they could make a U-turn on is the Arizona Mills entrance, and that would be further evaluated also. So just to clarify, if the U-turn is allowed, it will be a phased U-turn. It's as if you are making a left turn into Windler, whether they make that left turn at Windler, you make it at another intersection. And the numbers again that we have, and that is all information is available also in the DCR on the website. The numbers do not justify having that traffic signal right at Windler.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg, for your question. The next question here that came in is, can you summarize construction start and finish dates?
Well, we don't have a specific dates for beginning and end of construction. As we talked before, the construction funding has not been programmed. But we do have conceptual estimates of maintenance of traffic control, and I can say our current estimate for the MDI construction is about 12 months or 1 year, and the DDI is about 18 months or a year and a half. But beginning and start dates are not available at this time.
And we are just past 7 o'clock. We do have a couple more questions. Our panel will stay for a few extra minutes. We'll stay on up to about 7:15 if we need to finish up these last few questions. The next question here is, why has construction not been funded?
Okay, I guess maybe we skipped a question, but we'll answer that one first. Why has construction not been funded? Again, MAG has programming, and based on fundings that they have, today, the half-cent sales tax, which is Prop 400, ends. And the programming, the design, the preliminary study that we're doing now and final design is part of Prop 400. The construction, that funding will be coming out of Prop 479, which is going to be on the ballot in November. And based on that funding, if it gets passed through and that funding is approved, then MAG will use that money to program this for construction.
The other question that I glanced over, I apologize, is will you be able to make right turns on reds due to the U-turns?
No, right turns on red where we allow these U-turns will be prohibited in the design concepts.
Another question just came in. It says, is it true that the proposed changes are to make this section of baseline much safer for drivers? I understand that I-10 baseline intersection is one of the most dangerous in the valley. Is that true?
Yeah, in the current conditions, I-10 baseline road and then the interchange itself, I mean, it has like a very high number of crashes. With improved traffic operations, the expected crash frequency would be mitigated and it will improve substantially the safety work.
Right. Thanks, Ravi. Robert has a question here. Why did the funding not be included in earlier budgets? The spine listed it as one of the most congested and one of the highest priorities. That might be a question for Mag, I'm not sure.
So MAG, as you know, MAG is Maricopa Association of Government. So it includes the Maricopa County. So there's a lot of projects. So, and there's probably a lot of them are priorities, but at the same time, there's priorities of priorities to describe it. So again, they go through a study, a feasibility study, and they program each project consecutively based on funding and prioritization.
Thanks, Olivier. There's a comment here, really a concern about being able to cross the lanes of traffic, all the lanes of traffic that are proposed in the build alternatives to make those left or U-turns. So that was the comment and concern shared there.
Yeah, I mean, the making a U-turn is always a little more difficult than your typical left turn. But in this case, the U-turns would be at a protected left turn lane, and there will not be any opposing traffic for you to watch for when you're making those U-turns. So even with the number of lanes that you have there, it will be as similar as a left turn at a protected phase. And it should be, while it's a little more difficult to maneuver than a typical left turn, but it should be possible.
Part of that statement, Ravi, was about crossing the lanes of traffic to get to the turn lanes. Maybe that's part of the concern, addressing maybe the traffic flow in the area and how that might be easier could also help, explain that.
Yeah, so we are not increasing the number of through lanes on Baseline Road. So it should still be possible. And then when we do look at these U-turn maneuvers, we do consider all those interactions and weaving possibilities. And the ultimate design, whichever design alternative is chosen, it will accommodate and consider all those U-turn procedures.
Great, thank you. Well, I don't see any other questions that have come in. So at this time, I am going to pass the presentation back to Gael.
Before we close, I'd like to remind you that this presentation was recorded and will be posted to the project website. We would like to encourage you to visit the website for more information and to sign up for the mailing list. We have posted the website link in the chat for your convenience. Comments will be accepted until August 22nd. A link to the comment form is also available in the chat. The web address is tinyurl.com/I10 baseline comment. If you have any follow-up questions or comments, please use the comment form or email projects@azdot.gov. Also, if you have not already done so, please take the anonymous self-ID survey. We have placed a link to the survey in the chat as well. Thank you very much for your interest in the study and for your participation.